Delay and welcome everybody. It's a great pleasure despite the circumstances. I wanted to first of all thank all of you, thank the judges. Let me introduce the judges again. The chair, Gloria Weisbart, Jeff Finaldi, Eric Zabel, Lorraine Allen, and Nicole Lola. Thank you for all the work you've put so far and for what's happening today. And I also want to thank Stephanie, Tammy, Nicole for your work behind the scenes. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do it together. This is a very unusual way of doing. And again, thank you for your flexibility. It is greatly appreciated. And my preference, like probably yours, would be to do it in person, see each other, and enjoy this event. I hope we can still enjoy it, although technology sometimes challenges me, and please forgive me if there are some occasional hiccups. About the rules of tonight. Each team is given 30 minutes and judges may interrupt within that period anytime. The chair will let you know 5 minutes prior to the end of your 30-minute window. We also ask that you mute your Zoom function during everyone else's presentations to avoid any unnecessary noise. Stephanie, am I missing on any rules, anything that should make this go smoothly?
I do not believe so.
Okay, so let me introduce the first team that is going to present a project entitled Empower Me. Guys, the floor is yours.
Okay, just let us know when you're ready to let us start. I'm going to be sharing my screen, so there's that.
I think we are ready.
Got it. Okay, so looks like we're ready to go. The suicide rate among college students continues to increase year after year. College students often report overwhelming anxiety leading to depression. College students see that there's a lot of thoughts popping into their heads. Things like, who do I turn to? What's wrong with me? How do I hide my problems from other people? We've seen what mental health problems can do to people when not properly addressed. We've personally seen our friends break down over mental health issues, and at the extreme end, we've even lost some people along the way. The thing is, it's not that college counseling departments aren't trying hard enough, but rather there's a lack of innovative resources with which to accomplish the hefty task of addressing all student cases thoroughly. But these are just the students who approach the services of counseling departments. Some students don't know exactly how severe their mental health issues are or what these issues entail. Good afternoon. We are Team Empower Me. My name is Sri Chinta, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer.
My name is Spanik, and I'm the Chief Technical Officer.
My name is Arshia, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Empower Me is our app-based solution to improving the way mental health is viewed and addressed on college campuses. Empower Me is our subscription-based software that is meant to be purchased by counseling departments and made available to the whole student body. Empower Me is our app to help students better understand their mental health, take steps towards improving their mental health, and discovering on-campus resources as well as local professional services. Based on a study conducted by Australian psychologists in 2016, it was found that there are 16 recommended features that mental health apps should incorporate, but there currently exists no mental health app with all 16 features. Among these are things like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, a mental health strategy for mental health problem solving, links to support services, as well as mental health information in the form of modules. Empower Me will incorporate all 16 of these features. There also exists no mental health app that has been extensively and definitively studied by an independent clinical trial. Holding such a study would not only lend Empower Me credibility, but would also increase the likelihood of counseling departments purchasing our service. The reason that no other mental health app has had this extensive clinical study backing is because of the high costs associated with such a study. But as Arshia will later explain, we can accomplish this in a fiscally feasible manner. Lastly, Empower Me has a gamification aspect. The model for Empower Me is based on Habitica, a task management app with millions of users where as a user accomplishes certain tasks and goals, he or she earns in-game coins. These coins can then be used to upgrade the in-game avatar and attack enemies, go on quests. Gamification not only makes Empower Me more engaging, but also provides users with a tangible measure of mental health progress. So how do users interact with the app? After the counseling department has purchased EmpowerMe, the service is made available to each and every single student. Students currently receiving mental health treatment can benefit by supplementing whatever information they have received from their counselor with comprehensive modules in 5 categories. These are intellectual, social, emotional, physical, and mindfulness. Modules are made by various experts and cover a wide spectrum of mental health conditions. The experts will be sourced from organizations like Mental Health America and Obesity Action Coalition. These are dietitians, physicians, psychiatrists, whose goals align with the mission of EmpowerMe. The app also has a task manager where the user can set goals for him or herself pertaining to mental health, like sleeping for at least 7 hours a day, based on the recommendation of the mental health professional. As the user accomplishes these goals and has other interactions with the app will collect all of this data. A report can then be generated based on the user's mental health progress, as well as changes and trends in emotions. This report will then help streamline discussions between the student and his or her counselor. Students currently not receiving mental health treatment can also benefit by getting mental health information through the modules, tracking progress with building positive habits and breaking negative ones through the task manager, as well as discovering what resources are available to them. As the user uses the app may detect that the user is at risk of a mental health crisis. This results in the use of the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, or CSSRS. This is an evidence-based tool that identifies individuals at risk of harming themselves. The app will request the user to enter emergency contacts who will be reached out to in case a certain score on the CSSRS is reached. Overall, all of these features work together to help college counseling departments empower students to take charge of informing themselves of any mental health conditions they may have. As the user becomes more comfortable with the whole concept of mental health and any specific conditions he or she may be facing, they can reach out to help from a professional. This will enable us to work towards our mission statement, to combat the stigma and open up dialogue pertaining to mental health on college campuses in a cost-effective and convenient manner.
Keep in mind that EmpowerMe does not diagnose any users with any mental illnesses. Any medical health professional can attest to that diagnosing someone requires multiple tests and thorough discussions. Instead, EmpowerMe is a mental health assistance tool that users can use to better and improve their mental health. On the left side of the screen, you'll see a short video showing how a sample user might interact with the app on a day-to-day basis. The Discover page is the first aspect of our application and is considered the crux of the app. Here, users are able to view all the modules that exist in the application, and over time, the app will increasingly tailor these modules to the user's symptoms that they enter when they register for the application, using machine learning as well as a custom-built algorithm. Next, we pulled out the taskbar, which shows off the 5 main features of the application. First, you have the Discover page, where all the modules exist. Secondly, you have the module search page, where if a user wants to learn more about a specific topic, they can go here and find all the modules relevant to that. In the middle, you have the profile page, which contains the user's avatar, all the task managers, as well as the user report system. Next, you have the game store, where users can spend their in-game earned currency to upgrade their avatar for the gamification aspect. Lastly, you have the resources page, which has all the resources available to the student, as well as implementation of a Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale. Additionally, we have a sample module that we worked to create with Dr. Mark Forrest, the Director of Mental Health Services at the College of New Jersey. The sample module is discussing how students can better cope and better their mental health during this important time where students are all stuck at home during quarantine as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
There are definitely things you can do to manage and cope more effectively. One thing that's been shown to be very important is to provide a sense of structure in your life. And that can be a little challenging during these times of being at home. So try waking up at probably no later than 10 o'clock each day. Make sure you shower and do the things you would normally do if you were kind of going out of the house. Wear clean clothes. Go outside and get some sun on your skin. Do what work you can, certainly, and make sure you're exercising regularly.
Throughout the application and interspersed throughout modules, users will be able to answer questions to test their knowledge of the module and also better reinforce what they've learned. If they answer the question correctly, like this user did, they'll receive 50 coins towards their in-game currency. Next, you have the profile page, where the user will spend a lot of their time. The profile page first has the user's custom-built avatar that they have the option of customizing. Next, you have the task manager. There's two ways that tasks are generated for the user. Firstly, based off of the symptoms that the user enters when they register, as well as based off of the modules that they watch, the app will recommend tasks for the user to accomplish and work towards. Additionally, users are also able to create their own tasks or goals that they want to work towards. For example, Jane, our sample user in this case, is trying to wake up at 7 a.m. every day. As a result, you can see that a villain avatar has been generated for this habit that she's trying to create. Villain avatars are generated for every positive habit that a user is trying to build and negative habit that a user is trying to break. Additionally, for each task page, you can notice that there's a log of how she's been doing over the past week. Unfortunately, Jane was not able to wake up every single day at 7 a.m. in this period of time, so the app suggests a sample module for the user to take a look at to help better her sleep and have healthier sleep. Additionally, the app will also give progress feedback depending on how the user has done in the past time period. Additionally, the user is able to generate a report which has information about answers to the daily question about how they're doing that day, which will generate a word cloud and more analytics about the user's mood. Additionally, it will also keep track about the user's task manager. And lastly, if they do have any interaction with the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale questionnaire, that information will also be on there. The reason for the user-generated report is that when the user goes to meet with a mental health professional or a therapist, they can just pull up this report on their phone and have an open, clean, transparent discussion with their mental health professional in order to streamline their treatment and help. Lastly, the next important part of our application is a resources page. For users who are new to the application and first navigate to the resources page, they'll be granted and viewed by a video that has been created by one of the professionals at that college's mental health department. The reason for this is that we want to provide them with a familiar face to associate these programs and hotlines with in order to make them more inclined to reach out if they do need help. The resources page is split up into two separate categories. First, you have school-specific resources. As Jane, the sample user in this case, is a TCNJ student, we have 3 TCNJ departments or resources that she can reach out to. Firstly, Mental Health Services, the Center for Student Success, and then the Dean of Students Office. Additionally, because TCNJ is a New Jersey-based institution, we have New Jersey hotlines that the user can reach out to, as well as national hotlines that are also an option. Lastly, you see that there's a feeling down button. If the user exhibits any signs of depression or suicidal thoughts or self-harm, or is feeling those thoughts themselves and chooses to click this button, that'll automatically trigger the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale questionnaire, which is pictured below. As a result of this questionnaire, if a certain score has been reached on this questionnaire, it will prompt the user to contact the emergency contact number that they had entered when they registered for the app initially. Our target market is the 1,300 colleges in the United States with between 2,000 and 10,000 students. Some of the strengths that we've identified with this target market is that we can directly market to counseling departments, and there's a low cost of development associated with EmpowerMe compared to other applications that exist on the market. Some of the weaknesses is that we have relative lack of starting capital, and we're a relatively inexperienced team compared to other bigger corporations who produce mental health applications. Some of the opportunities is that we'll be obtaining research backing through an independent verified clinical trial, as well as continually to adding new features to the application to develop the MVP, as well as post-release. Additionally, some of the threats is that there's a difficulty of establishing credibility with these council departments, as we will be a new company, and there's a lack of precedent for these council departments to use an app that meets all these features. While we don't fall under HIPAA compliance as a mental health application, that doesn't mean we're not taking our users' data securely and ensuring that it's all sensitive data is secure. We're taking a two-pronged approach to ensure that a user's data is safe. Firstly, all sensitive data will first be encrypted before being moved to the cloud servers, and all other relevant data will also be encrypted and also pass an SSL certificate before being moved into the cloud cluster where all the data will be stored. We've identified 4 main barriers to entry that exist for EmpowerMe to break into this target market. One is product differentiation. However, EmpowerMe is different from other applications in the sense that we'll be capitalizing on clinical benefits through the independent verified clinical trial, as well as incorporating the gamification model from the popular app Habitica used by millions of users, and also having comprehensive modules created by mental health professionals who are experts in their own fields. Next, there's a potential of a high cost of development. However, EmpowerMe is only 3 months away from a minimal viable product, and in order to keep the costs low, we'll be ensuring that we're hiring student interns and using a PhD program to ensure that the costs are low. Next, there's a potential of switching costs associated for other counseling departments to switch to our software. However, through research and studies, we've noticed that most counseling departments lack other subscription softwares that does what EmpowerMe does. So as a result, there'll be no cancellation fees associated with switching over to our software. Lastly, there's oftentimes a lot of bureaucracy associated with larger institutions where we have to talk with multiple administrators and departments to get to the decision maker. However, by targeting smaller institutions, we're able to directly market and discuss with those small decision makers who oftentimes head those counseling departments and ensure that they can become an effective client and EmpowerMe can help them and their students.
Now on to how we will surpass our specific competitors, as well as maximize our share in the college counseling space. So first we have Happify. It is an app that claims to increase positive emotions through exercises and games supported by positive psychology and mindfulness research. The app provides excerpts from scientific findings for each of the activities to support the purpose of those games and activities, those games and exercises. But the app as a whole has not been clinically studied, and it also lacks the rest of the features listed on this chart. Headspace is an app that claims to encourage users to establish a regular meditative routine, primarily aimed at those with anxiety and depressive disorders. Headspace has an animated interface, podcasts, and videos to better illustrate those meditative techniques. Like Happify, it lacks the clinical support and also does not have the comprehensive modules, implementation of CSSRS, and a gamification aspect. MoodGym is an interactive self-help program that incorporates CBT and helps to educate users on how to cope with symptoms of anxiety and depression. It has over 1 million users worldwide, but clinical studies have shown varying results on the effectiveness of MoodGym. MoodGym has modules, and each of these modules has associated workbooks and quizzes, which is very academic in nature. And that's a stark contrast to the engaging and interactive environment that EmpowerMe hopes to create. One of the most commonly used programs by healthcare providers is Theranos, which is a source of indirect competition due to its telehealth sessions. Providers are able to send a secure session link to their clients, talk to them remotely, and screen share so therapy notes can be discussed. But this service is very provider-oriented, so it lacks the top 3 features on the chart. Please note at the bottom of this chart, the bottom row, that EmpowerMe is the only one of these programs that is marketed specifically to college counseling departments. Apps like Happify and Headspace will have to deal with extending app peak and preventing commercial death for as long as possible, whereas EmpowerMe, once it has those established college clients and showcases its mental health benefits to students, it will have a recurring, predictable revenue stream. Please note that by no means is this chart exhaustive. There are some features that the competitors have that EmpowerMe does not have, but these features are largely unnecessary for EmpowerMe to accomplish its mission.
This is the marketing plan roadmap for EmpowerMe. Initially, we start off by performing market research. First, we will focus on colleges in New Jersey, and then we're going to expand geographically outwards from the Northeast region. Next, we're going to identify a target market. For EmpowerMe, our target market lies between colleges which have between 2,000 to 10,000 students. Next, we're going to be performing a competitive analysis. This was shown using the SWOT analysis in the previous slides. Next, we're going to bring in the TCNJ Mental Health Service Department as our first client. This is because we have already agreed to conduct a pilot study on our product. Next, we will be marketing to other counseling departments in colleges near TCNJ, for example, Rider, Rowan, and Montclair, and we'll be using platforms such as LinkedIn, personalized email, success of past clients, and also attending national conferences such as the NASPA, the ACCA, and the ACHA for this. The organizational matrix. My name is Arshia Chopra. I'm the CFO for EmpowerMe, and my core responsibility is to manage the company's finances and prepare the financial statements.
As Chief Executive Officer of EmpowerMe, I will help determine how much money should be allocated towards each of the marketing expenditures. I will help deliver sales pitches to potential interested clients, and I'll facilitate communication between the CTO and CFO to determine how much money should be allocated towards each of the development goals.
As CTO, I'll be overseeing and spearheading the development and continually adding the features to the EmpowerMe Crucial app. Additionally, I'll be working to deploy the servers for each of the institutions that we bring on as clients, and also ensuring that all bugs are fixed. Additionally, I'll be overseeing the programming interns that we plan to hire.
The sales interns and the marketing and communications interns are going to be headed by Shri, who's the CEO. The sales interns, their core responsibilities are to gather information about colleges, to generate a sales pitch, and to communicate with the marketing interns, who on the other hand are going to decide which particular colleges to target. They're also going to design attractive giveaways for conferences and create marketing materials. They'll also reach out to experts who are going to be making our modules. The programming interns, who are going to be headed by Swanik, their core responsibility is to optimize the user interface. They're also going to be improving the gamification aspect of the app and assist in fixing bugs as and when required. We will incorporate EmpowerMe as a limited liability corporation. The app will have a waiver of liability, which is going to clearly state to the users that we're not a diagnosis app. We're simply an assistive tool. The trademark will protect the name and the logo associated with the app, and the copyright is for the content of the video modules. The pricing and revenue model. Our business model aims to sell annual subscriptions to colleges at a fixed price of $1 per semester per student. We also plan on giving out trials to colleges. Each trial consists of a $1,000 setup fee, plus an additional fee of $1 per student for the trial. The trial lasts for a period of 6 months. The financial statements have also been calculated based on the assumption that the subscription is renewed biannually. The subscriptions are projected to match the duration of a college's annual cycle, which is the fall and the spring semester. In our accounting statements, period A is the fall semester and period B is the spring semester. Our subscription model, as shown on the bottom right, is projected by assuming that we give out trial subscriptions to colleges every period, and we assume that 33% of the trial users convert to being full-time users. Just to be on the safer side, we've also incorporated an attrition rate of 20%. That states that roughly 20% of our full-time users drop out every 2 years. The projected sales revenue. This slide shows how we've divided our financials into 2 periods, that are period A and period B. In period A, it shows that we have 1 full-time subscriber, which is TCNJ. By selling to TCNJ, we get a revenue of $7,000. In period B, we have 4 full-time subscribers as we've increased our full-time subscription by 3 colleges. Now we have $7,000 multiplied by 4, which is $28,000 in revenue from them. Additionally, a major component of our revenue comes from the trial subscribers. In this situation, we've assumed that we'll have 9 trial subscribers in period A of 2021. From them, we'll get 9 into $1,100, which is $9,900 as revenue. And in period B, we have 12 trial subscribers. So 12 into 1,100 is equal to 13,200.
Actually, I just have this is Jeff. I have a couple quick questions on your marketing and sales.
Yeah.
With first respect to the pilot, right? Because you said the pilot's going to be done at TCNJ.
Yeah.
When does the pilot going to begin, and how long is it going to last for?
So I'll be, as of now, we've spoken to Dr. Mark Forrest about this, and we hope that the pilot study begins as soon as we come back to TCNJ, and it's roughly going to take about 2 months to complete.
Okay. Yeah, so, could I just add something real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we basing this model on a suite of studies done by Northwestern University on IntelliCare, which are other mental health apps. And that is how we're basing our study model. They have participants, about 100 participants who are studied for 8 weeks. And then 2 months after those 8 weeks, they're followed up. And that's how we get our clinical data.
Okay, so let's assume everything goes back to normal. Mm-hmm. You're gonna pilot in September and October, right? Then you're gonna have a period where you're gonna study how the pilot went. How long does that take? What does that look like?
Yeah, so after we go for 8 weeks, the counselors will be in direct contact with the people the students who are using the app. And that's how we get our first set of data. And then to add on to that, to see the long-term effects of EmpowerMe, they're followed up 2 months after that. So the initial 8 weeks will be from like September to around October, end of October, early November. And then in end of December, early January, we'll have the full set of results.
Okay, and then you're gonna take that, or the success or not, hopefully the success of that, and then that's going to be used to market to other schools? Because I'm looking at your revenue for 2021. I would think that you're gonna have to have some success first with your pilot before you start marketing out to other schools, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand the timeline on that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the reason that TCNJ wanted to do a pilot study is because we have great relations with Mark Forrest, but that's not going to be our main like selling point of how we advertise that our app has mental health benefits. We've been in contact with the PhD psychology program at Montclair University, and they're the ones who are willing to run this whole study as one of their projects to see the effect of Empower Me on mental health benefits. And this is something that we could start as soon as we have the necessary funding, $10,000 in this case.
Okay, so you're not having a pilot, then you're going to have multiple pilots going on at one time?
No, to clarify, so we're going to have the pilot study at TCNJ whenever they decide to start the trial, but the Montclair University study is for us to verify the benefits. So the TCNJ study, that's just something that Mark Forrest wants to do out of interest for this, to see how it specifically affects TCNJ students, but the actual mental health benefits will be derived from the Montclair University study.
Okay, understood. So, and a separate question in terms of, let's say you're doing the pilot with TCNJ, how are you going to get individual students to use the app? I mean, obviously they have so many apps like Facebook, Instagram, and even other apps like running apps and whatnot. So what is the incentive for an individual to use the app?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the things that we're thinking about is would students actually use our app? And there was a study conducted by Donker et al. In 2013. And what they found was that 76% of the Australian public in our age demographic were willing to use mental health apps for self-monitoring and management purposes. So we feel that it is very intrinsic need because these students really want a telehealth type of sort of product in order for them to help manage their mental health issues, especially considering the counseling departments are very overwhelmed. So we think it's an intrinsic motivation for students.
Is there any other incentive or motivation, or it's just, I'm hearing it, I hear you, but it sounds like an assumption. So is there any other, if that doesn't work, do you have a plan B or C in terms of how you're going to incentivize them to use the app?
So for TCNJ, that is up to Mark Forrest and his team. But for Montclair, what I can say for sure is that at Northwestern University, when they did their study with 100 participants, they compensated them for $90 each, and they had a 90% completion rate. So out of the 99 participants, 90 people actually went through with the whole study. So we figured out Montclair University, that's why we need $10,000 actually to compensate those study participants. And we expect to have a similar completion rate of about 90%.
Okay. Understood. Okay.
Yeah, Arsha, you can go. Continue.
Next slide, please.
Got it.
The income statement. This is the income statement of Empower Me, which shows that in the first year, that is 2020, we'll be making a loss. However,
excuse me, I don't want to interrupt, but you've got now 5 minutes left.
All right, thank you. In the second year, we begin to make a profit. And in the third year, as you can see, our gross profit and our net profit triples in amount. In our fourth year, we're making a gross profit of $264,125 and a net profit of $183,488. You can also see on the income statement that the cost for the independent clinical trial is $10,000. As Shri said earlier, we've allocated this amount of $10,000 based on the Northwestern University study. Next slide, please. The prize money distribution. The prize money will greatly facilitate Empower Me in bringing the business plan to life and to begin to impact the community with all its benefits. The prize money is required to get the app clinically verified for its benefits, to upload the app on the App Store, pay the bank costs, advertisement expenses, sales and marketing, postage, travel expenses, and intellectual property expenses. The prize money will enable Empower Me employees to attend national conferences, such as the NASPA, the ACCA, and the ACHA, and cover table costs there, where the marketing and communications interns or one of the founding members will be able to hand out advertisement materials. Since Empower Me is an application, we will have to purchase cloud storage to store data and pay the cybersecurity companies to ensure that the data of the users is secure. The prize money is also required to continue developing our app and to improve our in-app experience. Thank you, and now we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Really great job. I particularly like slide 2 and how you explain the use for people who are perhaps already having mental health issues and those who are just wanting some help. That is a great slide and is a great addition to your deck. I wanted to make sure I understood a little bit, sort of along Jeff's questions with the timeline, and when do the experts get involved here, and how many do you think you need? I'm assuming you're going to need content for the pilot study and for the study with Montclair. So just talk me through that and how that's going to align with your timeline.
Arsha, do you want to answer that? How are we going to source our experts?
Right now, we've already spoken to Dr. Mark Forrest, and he said that he's very happy to assist us, and he wants to create the modules. We already have a few modules, one that we made with Dr. Puneet Sethi, who is the registered dietitian at TCNJ, and one with Dr. Mark Forrest, as we've shown. And we continue to working with people who we've contacted some of them, such as the psychology department at Montclair University and the CAPS department at TCNJ. And all of them are very happy to work with us, and they want to assist in making these modules. So we wish to start off as soon as possible.
I'm sorry to kind of harp on this. I just had one other follow-up question. So you talked about in Montclair, there would be compensation for the users. So, and then you mentioned it for TCNJ, it would be up to TCNJ to decide how to get users, right? But I think you have some skin in the game in terms of that as well. I don't think I personally don't know if it should, like you're leaving your fate up to the college in that situation, which I've seen in business. You don't always want to, like, you know, that your success is up to someone else, which is not always the best thing. So I would love to hear, you know, something that you're going to potentially do to help increase your success for reach out to these students.
Yeah, so in terms of compensation, the reason that we do that at Montclair is because it is an official independent clinical study. With TCNJ, this is just something that Mark Forrest wants to do to see how it affects students, to see if we can encourage students to use the app and how it works out if they have like real mental health benefits. But what we will do is, Arsha, do you want to talk about how the marketing communications interns will help the counseling departments?
Yeah, so the marketing and communications interns, they're going to reach out to counseling departments of various colleges, tell them about the benefits of our app, and also provide them with advertisement material. And we also plan on giving trial subscription to all these colleges, which is relatively very cheap. And we hope that once they take the trial subscription, which costs only $1 per student, and they can give it to 100 students, we assume that a lot of colleges, after taking this trial subscription, would come to us. But additionally, the National Institute of Mental Health, they also give out grants to promote research. And we hope that if all fails, then we'll get a grant from them and they'll help us with the clinical study.
So in terms of promoting users, we will have advertisement material that we'll put in public places on the college, such as in TCNJ, the Student Center is the best place to do that, having the Empower Me logo as well as the benefits outlined. So that will be another way to market to students.
I think maybe Jeff is suggesting that you think about your budgeting and maybe put some aside for incentivizing students to just sign up for the app. You know, maybe it's free T-shirts or whatever it may be. Is that what you're saying, Jeff? I think. Yeah,
something. And I don't, I know that in like the health insurance, some of the health insurance providers will like discount the cost of premiums and whatnot if people, attest to not smoking or participate in certain apps or programs like this. I'm not saying, is there something that maybe you could work with these schools? I'm not saying reduce tuition, but where, students maybe there's certain mandatory credits, or maybe they get a credit if they're participating in some type of mental health exercise. Maybe there's something else that you can do to incentivize something. If you could think of some, not saying on the spot right now, but I would like to see some more creative ideas on how you're going to work with the colleges to get this done.
Mm-hmm. So real quick to address that in a most basic way is that we have a contingency, usually for other costs, but like you said, we could hand out T-shirts and promote Empower Me that way directly to students. I know at TCNJ, the psychology department has Piper credits, where students are required to attend studies and things like that. So I think that's a trend that's seen among other institutions. So we could definitely work with the psychology department and the schools that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously in the interest of the school to have greater mental health within the school. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And I guess we can move on.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Do we have the second team, the Vortex? Okay.
We can start whenever.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Alex, you can start us off.
First, I'd just like to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to be here today. I know it's been tough, but thank you guys for the opportunity. My name is Alex Ioria.
My name is Jake DeGennaro. Today here we'll talk to you about our product we call the Vortex and the business plan we have prepared along for it.
I'm a civil engineering junior here at TCNJ.
And I'm a mechanical engineering junior here at TCNJ. Alex and I have been lifelong friends, and as you can see from the images in the slide, we're both avid recreational fishermen. We have over 20 years experience in the hobby.
And before we get going with the presentation, I'd like to start off with a quick story about how the idea for the Vortex came to be. Last semester, Jake and I were fishing together on the Delaware River, and right in the trees above our heads, you can see all this tangled fishing line just hanging there right in front of our face. And we're talking about how unfortunate it was that fishing line was probably just going to be there forever in everyone's way. And then Jake also mentioned how he himself has trouble disposing of waste fishing line. When he's done with it, you ball it up, put it in your back pocket, but there's no real way to dispose of it. And he mentioned he has this idea for a product called Vortex, where it properly wraps up and disposes of waste fishing line in a tight spool. I thought it was a great idea. We started bouncing more ideas off of one another, and then the Vortex was born.
All right, thanks, Alex. So now we'd like to start off our presentation by showing you a short video we made for our product. Fishing is a hobby, sport, and lifestyle for millions of people across the globe. With over 49 million Americans enjoying recreational fishing each year, it is important that fishermen and women practice sustainable techniques to protect the wildlife that we all enjoy. Fishing line is made of thin, non-biodegradable, and often clear plastic materials, making it a very serious problem when left behind in the environment. Wildlife can easily become tangled in the waste fishing line, causing injury, strangulation, or starvation. All types of wildlife are affected by this problem, whether it be fish, turtles, dolphins, or birds. Any type of animal is susceptible to being entangled in the line or will try to consume it. On top of all the wildlife, discarded fishing line is a serious problem for boats and human divers or swimmers. It is extremely important that we work towards proper management of waste fishing line to protect our planet's wildlife and environment. Without many products on the market that attempt at making sustainable practices for fishing, we decided to make our own. The Vortex started off as an idea when we got tired of fiddling with waste fishing line and trying our best to keep it in wraps to later dispose of it. This is a problem that many other anglers face as well. To show how the Vortex would work, we fabricated a proof of concept prototype out of a carpenter's chalk reel. With some slight modifications, we ended up with a basic version of what a Vortex would look and operate like. The Vortex makes spooling, storing, and disposing waste fishing line quick and easy. To show you what it can do, we took it to one of our local parks and did some much needed cleanup. That is just a basic prototype of the Vortex and what it can do. We plan to design and build a completely original Vortex that will perform better than the current prototype and have other features such as a line cutting tool and even a flashlight. We strongly believe that this tool can make a difference in limiting the environmental impact of recreational fishing. With a Vortex in hand, any fisherman or a woman can easily do their part in keeping the fishing spots we all love and enjoy clean and safe for both humans and wildlife. So a little more on the problem we're trying to tackle. That's waste fishing line pollution caused by recreational fishing. It negatively impacts the environment, destroys homes for wildlife, can get tangled around animals, and if left untouched, waste fishing line will take around 600 years to fully decompose. The images on the right of your screen are pictures that I personally took at TCNJ just a couple months back. And it just goes to show this is such a widespread problem, it's even in our own backyard. I want to discuss the differences between recreational and commercial fishing. Recreational fishing is our target market. There's no concrete data on the scale of pollution caused by recreational fishing. It's often overshadowed by commercial fishing. This is due to the large nets that commercial fisheries use to keep up with the large demand of fish. I just wanted to point out that there are some commercial fisheries out there that do use conventional rod and reel techniques and use fishing line that can be tackled by the vortex. So as you saw in the video, the environmental impact of fishing line is enormous. It can get left around rivers, streams, any bodies of water, and animals that fly, walk, or swim into the line get tangled around it. The only way they get it off of them is by human interaction. So our goal with the vortex is to eliminate that problem from happening altogether. We made a short infographic here discussing the problem at hand here. We said if every recreational angler in the United States left behind only 3 inches of line per year, that would equate to 2,350 miles of waste fishing line. That line would stretch all the way from TCNJ to the outskirts of Los Angeles, California. And sadly, the number, this estimate is going to be is a huge underestimate, and this number is much likely much larger. This is due to 3 inches of line per year per person being a huge underestimate. So our solution is the vortex. The vortex is a device that provides a simple and innovative way of disposing waste fishing line. It easily wraps up fishing line into a tight spool, allowing the angler to properly dispose of it. The design of the vortex is still being finalized, but we wanted to talk about the main features that we believe make it real special. It's going to have an internal gear ratio, providing mechanical advantage, allowing the user to spool line up much quicker and easier. It's going to have a fixed blade line cutting tool, allowing the user to cut off any line that's wrapped around trees, rocks, or even live animals. It's going to have a removable bristle attachment with a slot that can be used to cut off the line. It's going to be simple, ergonomic, and aesthetically pleasing. We plan to make a clamshell design, allowing easier access to the inners of the vortex. We plan to have a dial for single-handed use. This is because when we were testing the vortex for the video we made, we found that it was kind of finicky to put the line in with one hand and turn it with the other. So we wanted to add this dial to make that process easier. It's going to be cost-effective and have a long useful life. We plan to make it out of a durable plastic material and hopefully down the line, a recycled plastic material. So how the vortex works is that the user inserts the line into the vortex. Then the handle or that dial that I mentioned can be used to catch the line around the spool. Once it's caught, the handle is simply turned and you spool off the rest of that waste fishing line. If the line is in smaller lengths, such as the end of a knot or something, the user can simply insert it through the top of the vortex and seal it away from the environment. For the disposal process, the bristle attachment is removed from the spool. Then the line is cut off into manageable lengths. The user then can sort out any recyclable line they have if they can. And then any line that's going to be thrown away should be put in a sealable container or plastic bag and discarded. It should be discarded. And that bristle attachment is simply put back on the spool and it's ready to go again. For the future of our product, we plan to add more features to the existing design to make it an all-in-one fishing tool. We want to develop a larger version for public fishing locations or commercial fishing vessels. Personally, I go to the Manasquan Inlet a lot by me, and I believe having a larger version there mounted on the railing, allowing anybody to come up and store any waste fishing line, would benefit that area greatly. We want to adopt the use of recycled materials into the product itself. We also want to work towards creating educational media showing how the vortex works and discussing the problem at hand and associating this problem with our solution. We want to work towards easier recycling of waste fishing line, which we'll talk about more later on in the presentation. And some potential applications of the design is that we can tweak it slightly and develop a pocket fishing reel or a device used for crabbing with drop lines.
Now, looking at the market analysis of our product, the Vortex, there are 49.1 million Americans who enjoy recreational fishing every year, making it the second most popular outdoor hobby in the United States, right behind jogging. And it grosses over $48.9 billion nationwide just on recreational fishing every year. Looking at our more immediate market, which for us would be New Jersey, in 2017, recreational fishing in New Jersey grossed over $1.75 billion in retail sales and over $750 million of income. Our product will be user-friendly and available for anglers of all skill levels. It's good for anyone from beginners all the way to experts. Also, it will be used by recreational fishermen looking to help the environment, any public servant looking to help the environment, or any recreational fisher looking for a more convenient, better way to spool up waste fishing line. It's very hard to do it with just your hands and maybe a knife. And this is where the Vortex would step in. Here's a greater look at the market potential of our product. There are 49.1 million recreational anglers in the United States. If we could just get 1 out of every 10 concerned about the environment, that results in a potential 4.91 million potential buyers of the Vortex, translated at $15 per retail sale, over $73 million of potential revenue moving forward. The only known competition for the Vortex at this time is the mono.
You got a question?
I just have a question. So, well, first off, I wanted to commend you guys on the business plan and how you outlined what you addressed from the different levels of the competition. I thought it made it very clear when, at least, when I was reading through it again. So great job on that.
Thank you.
There was one specific item though I apologize if I missed it, but I didn't see addressed, and it was really around the market analysis. I think we had talked about. I think it's a great idea. You guys do an incredible job of presenting things. So a lot of I mean, you should be proud of yourselves. But the one thing is, will people actually use this?
Right.
So, and I think we talked about maybe doing a survey or whatnot. I know it was a short amount of time, but did you guys take any actions between the semis and the finals around that recommendation?
Right. So yeah, we definitely heard that, and we wanted to address it. The problem that we ran into was that we didn't want to kind of give away our idea and put it out there for the public, because we kind of want to keep it to ourselves before we get that patent. Also, we want to establish that minimum viable product first. The proof of concept prototype just kind of shows the idea of it. We wanted to establish our finalized prototype before we did that. Being fishermen and having friends that are fishermen and family that are fishermen helped us talk to them and see how they would use it, and everybody said it was a great idea. That's definitely something we'll have to do down the line once we get that minimum viable product, for sure.
That's understandable. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the only known competition for the Vortex at this time is the MonoMaster. The MonoMaster designed to hold tiny clippings of waste fishing line and was only marketed to fly fishermen. We believe its pricing is far too high for its function. Right now, it's priced around $20. It's not well advertised, and in fact, the latest media from it is dated all the way back from 2012, so it's very outdated. It's based out of the Netherlands only and actually has no listed US dealers, and it's only turned by hand, whereas our product has the mechanical gear ratio on the inside, allowing it for faster spooling. The competitive advantage of our product will be our lower retail cost. Like I mentioned, the MonoMaster charges around $20 per product, whereas we plan to charge around $15. As I also mentioned, the US market is completely free of competitive devices. The MonoMaster is based only out of the Netherlands. We have a larger line capacity. This is due to the larger spool on the inside and the slightly larger shell. It allows it to take in more fishing line before filling up. It also stores any type of fishing line, whether that be monofilament or braided. It's faster and stronger. This is due to the bristle attachment and the gear ratio on the inside. And there's currently no patents even remotely close to Vortex. We did a patent search and nothing close came up. Currently, the barriers to entry are low for our product. These low barriers to entry allow us to easily enter the market. We have only one competitor, like I mentioned, outside the US, and there's no strict regulations to create this product. We have very low startup costs, so entering the market shouldn't be difficult. However, moving forward, we are hoping to raise these barriers to entry. We plan to do this by establishing our intellectual property, obtaining our patent, trademarking our device, and creating more media. We plan to create a loyal following and for people to associate solving the problem of recreational environmental fishing and cleaning up waste fishing line with our product, with our company. We'll educate the public on the problem we have a viable solution for and establish strong distribution networks to later down the line achieve economies of scale. For the marketing and growth strategy, starting at the top left there with our immediate market segment, which for us would be New Jersey, and even more immediate would be the shore area. We both live near the shore. This is where we go to fish. We know this area well, and we think we could really take advantage of distributing our product to local tackle shops, clubs, and organizations in this area. As we do this, we plan to receive information about our product and pricing structure and how to improve it. We'll also improve our brand, our patent, our trademark, create more media. And once we get the business and the product to the point we want, we'll find a reputable manufacturer to scale up production. We'll open an Amazon store to sell directly to the consumer nationwide. We'll continue building the brand and create more interactive media, invest in larger advertisements and marketing campaigns, and then the end goal is to potentially go into a larger retail store. Dick's Sporting Goods, Bass Pro Shop, Walmart, any of these would be great options for us. Upon suggestion from the semifinal round, we looked at an alternative marketing strategy of marketing to public local parks. We talked to New Jersey State Park employees and employees of the Monmouth County Park System, and they all outlined the same problems parks face with waste fishing line. They're constantly being asked to help untable fishing line and asked to remove this fishing line from live animals, which could potentially be dangerous and very problematic. And they're constantly receiving complaints about fishing line in trees, ruining the beauty of the parks. And they gave us some ideas of how to market to these parks by using the Vortex for nightly cleanup, having the Vortex in offices around the park when they do receive these complaints and when problems do arise. And then we even mentioned to them the idea of having a Vortex station near public places where fishing is very popular fishing spots for the public to dispose of the waste fishing line themselves personally. And they all thought that was a great idea moving forward. Now we're going to take a look at the organizational plan of our business.
So I'm currently the CEO of the company. I look at the general oversight of the company as a whole, but currently I'm more focused on the design and development of the Vortex. And I'm also looking at options to expand our business.
I'm currently the COO of the company. I handle the more day-to-day operations. Currently, I'm working towards how to market our device in greater marketing campaigns, and then how to effectively manufacture our product. The legal structure of our company will be an LLC. It will be known as Well Taught LLC. Being an LLC allows us to add members and change our roles as we grow. Right now, the only members currently are Jake and myself. However, down the line, we may need to add people to be more profitable or change our role as we see fit. Also, being an LLC allows us for potential growth in different areas. We love our product, the Vortex. We think it's going to be great, but we think there's room to grow in other areas, such as more different products that help with environmental recreational fishing. And upon suggestion from the semifinal round, we looked greater into completing the recycling process of waste fishing line, which Jake will touch upon now.
So a little more on completing the recycling process. As I mentioned earlier, one of our goals as a company is to work towards easier recycling of waste fishing line. So to do this, we want to complete the cycle for the consumer. This would mean that the consumers of the Vortex would be spooling up and gathering all this waste fishing line, and then we would take in that waste fishing line and actually recycle it. This would expand our company. From just a single product to an entire new business. This would help make it convenient for the public to recycle fishing line. Currently in the United States, there's only one company that actually recycles fishing line. So by going into this area, we would only have one competitor, and we would help make it easier for the public to gather waste fishing line and getting it into recycling plants. Looking at the recycling process, this is kind of how it would look. First, anglers would gather waste fishing line using the Vortex. The line would be collected, and then through recycling processes, the waste line would be pelletized. Then these plastic pellets can either be sold to other companies or used in-house for manufacturing. For the future of our recycling business, we came up with 3 potential scenarios in which we can go into. The first would be to take in that waste fishing line ourselves. The line would be either sent directly to us, or we could collect it from public locations, and we would be doing all that recycling, ending up with these plastic pellets that can either be sold for profit to other businesses or used to make products in-house. The second scenario we came up with would be to develop smaller pelletizing machines for more widespread recycling. These machines could be purchased by retail stores, tackle shops, or commercial fishing operations. For the retail stores and tackle shops, we had the idea that the pelletizing machines could be given for free or at a discount for exclusivity of our products in the store. And this would create traffic coming into the stores, benefiting them greatly. We also had the idea to have a buyback program for these pellets, allowing buyers of the machine to profit off the pellets they create while creating a source of low-cost material for us. And the third scenario we came up with would be to work with existing recycling companies to recycle the fishing line. It was suggested to us in the semifinals that we contact TerraCycle, which we reached out to them and are still waiting on a response. But by developing partnerships with existing recycling companies such as TerraCycle, we would be able to possibly use their facilities to actually recycle fishing line.
Now we're going to take a look at the 3-year financial projections for our product. So here's a breakdown of how the impact of the prize money would go towards the business. As you can see, the main thing there, 33%, $10,000 would go towards obtaining our utility patent. We think this is extremely important first step that needs to be handled. This price went up slightly from the semifinal round for the patent. This is because we did a more thorough patent search and found that our product would not be considered a very simple product, but also not be considered an extremely complex product. Somewhere in between, those products are usually priced around $10,000 for the utility patent. However, we do have an extra $5,000 cash on hand just in case that price is more than expected. Also, 17% of the money will go to both manufacturing and materials and packaging. We believe those are very important early steps that we need to handle. Here's a look at the financial projections. If you draw your attention to the middle of the screen there with the expenses and costs in that first year, just $30,000. This, we think, is extremely low for our business and allows us to move forward with our business, get it moving right away. Also on the right-hand side there, you can see our profit. We actually expect to make our profit after that first year, a slight profit of $3,000, and all the way by that third year, over $66,000 of profit, which we think is very good for our projections. Here's a look at the pricing and revenue model of Vortex. As you can see, we'll be selling it 3 separate ways: retail, wholesale, or online. Our retail sales will be sold in individual units for $15 per unit. This will be handled by our local market, and we expect some small growth in this area over the 3 years. The wholesale products will be sold in bundle units of 24, sold for $240, so $10 a unit. This allows local retailers to mark up the price 50% and still stay competitive with our $15 per sale, our pricing structure. Markup of 50% is about average for fishing products in this area, and we think we get them to bite on that price. Also, as you can see on the online retail, we also plan to sell individual units for $15 per unit. In that first year, as you notice, we don't sell that many online. This is due to the fact we are waiting to open the online store till about 6 months into the operation until we get the product in business to the point we really want it. But we expect exponential growth in that area moving forward. On page 21 of the business plan, you can see the projected profit and loss. Biggest thing I want to draw your attention to here is that net profit in that third year of 52%, over $66,000. This is slightly lower than projections from the last round. This is because we took a more realistic approach to our packaging costs and increased that a little bit. On the next page, you can see our projected balance sheet. Biggest thing I want to mention here is the total current liabilities of under $1,000 in that first year and still under $3,000 in that third year. We have extremely low liabilities, allowing us to get moving with this business right away. And then on the next page, you can see our projected cash flow. The biggest thing I want to mention here is that short-term and long-term debt. As you can see, we have none. We have no debt in this business right now, meaning with that initial investment, it will be enough to propel our company forward and get moving with it right away.
So for the next steps for the Vortex, we're currently working on a provisional patent application, which will last 12 months. Over that 12-month period, we're going to refine and finalize the design. And then once that period comes to an end, we're going to look to file for a non-provisional utility patent with some legal help. We're also going to be filing as a micro entity, which will help cut down costs in that area. As you may or may not know, all TCNJ engineering students are required to complete a senior design project. I'm looking to have the Vortex as my personal senior design project. This would provide me the resources to perfect the design, establish a minimum viable product, and to figure out a manufacturing process for the device. And this timeline will perfectly coincide with that 12-month provisional patent deadline. I also wanted to mention that I'm not only trying to have the Vortex as my senior project, but I'm looking to add a second component, which would involve finding out a recycling process for waste fishing line. So the bottom line why the Vortex works is that the Vortex is an innovative and unique solution to a very serious problem. It's a truly effective tool for any fisherman who wants to limit their environmental footprint. And it can help educate the world on the impacts of recreational fishing, which have been yet to be examined and have been overlooked by commercial fishing pollution.
And the bottom line of how we plan to make money is the Vortex will be profitable, whether retail, wholesale, or online. It's inexpensive to produce, and that cost only goes down over time. We have low cost with great profit margins, and it gives room for retailers to mark up the price 50%. We have a huge market potential that is virtually untapped in the US. And it's easily sold directly to consumers and could potentially be sold to larger retail stores down the line.
Thank you very much for your time. We'd like to thank everybody involved in this competition, everybody who supported us. We learned so much throughout this competition and are very grateful for our experience. We'd now like to open up to any additional questions.
Great job, guys. I have a couple questions. One of the, how did you guys come up with the pricing point, and just walk me through that? I know you have the 50% margin you're looking for, but how did you settle on the $15?
So we found that between manufacturing and material costs, it would cost around $3, estimated around $3 to produce. We decided to mark it up for a $12 gross profit. We thought that was a good amount. And then we also looked to, out of that profit, how would we distribute that money back into the business? And we thought $15 was a good amount. We also thought, looking at and knowing different fishing products, $15 would be a price that people would bite on. And then we marked it down to $10 to give it that 50% increase, which is pretty normal for fishing equipment and materials in this area. So we thought that's a good price for them to bite on.
Okay, and then my second question, I appreciate that. And how often do you think this thing has to be emptied, based on, I'm out going fishing one day? Is it one day it's going to get filled? Just on your average fishing trip, what do you think?
Right, that's a great question. Honestly, it depends on the day you have fishing. I know just recently, me and my dad were out on our boat fishing, and his reel got unspooled, and we had to go chase it down in the boat, and we had to pull it back in by hand. We had to pull back in most of that line on the reel. So having the Vortex spool that up much more quickly and easier, that would kind of fill it up much quicker. But personally, when I'm fishing, I know I have here and there throughout the trip, a couple feet or a couple inches of line that shouldn't be filled. The spool should not be filled that often. Maybe depending on it, honestly depends on how much you go fishing and how much line you lose. But we're designing it so that once it gets to that point, you can do it super quickly and super easily, that it's not taking up any of your time. We kind of designed it so that it doesn't take away from any time that you would have using for fishing.
And when I cut it off, is it in the proper length so that if I do dispose of it, it's not an issue in terms of environmental?
Right, that's a great question. So we're gonna have the spool designed with a slot in the center of it. That way you just take a scissor or a knife and cut that slot, and that will cut the entire spool into lengths about, probably I'd say either less than an inch or around a couple inches. So it'll be in those smaller lengths, especially for when you're actually disposing that line. You want to dispose of waste fishing line in smaller lengths so that birds or other animals don't come by in the landfill and get tangled in it.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question, and great job, guys.
Thank you.
You had mentioned doing 600 individual sales on your own versus the wholesale and the online retail. Where do you see those 600 unit sales coming from?
I can answer this, Alex. So we see these 600, the retail sales we estimate come from our local target market. These will be local tackle shops, local clubs, local organizations. And I know that for the fishing industry, expos and flea markets are also huge for people buying lures, rods, reels, any other kind of fishing equipment. So we would do a lot of business at these expos, flea markets, and just the local stores in our area.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've done an excellent job. Would you mind muting your mics? And we are moving to our third and last
Great job, guys.
Going to present a project entitled BAC Lock.
All right. Hello, everybody. We are Team BAC Lock. We're very happy to be here in the finals of the Mayo Business Plan competition. We just wanted to introduce ourselves before we get started. So my name is Brian Fardman. I'm a senior health and exercise science major here at the College of New Jersey. I plan on pursuing a career in medicine in the future, but I've always had a passion for business, being the reason that I entered this competition.
So hi everyone, my name is Alicia Podwiniak. I'm also a senior here at the College of New Jersey. I'm a biology major and I have a minor in public health. And the problem that we're trying to tackle with our service, our business, is a huge public health problem. drunk driving. And so we're going to start the presentation with some pretty astounding statistics. So first of all, in the year 2018, there were 10,511 deaths due to drunk driving crashes. And so 29% of all motor vehicle crashes in 2018 were due to intoxicated driving. And so what that tells us is nearly 1 in every 3 car accidents occurs due to alcohol. We also included that 231 children aged 14 and under were killed in drunk driving crashes during 2018. And the reason we include this is just to emphasize that drunk driving is such a widespread problem. It doesn't only affect the bars and the drunk drivers or the passengers, but also bystanders and individuals who really have nothing to do with it. So this figure here, what we want to highlight is really from 1995 on to 2018. So just a little bit under 25 years. You see very, very little fluctuation in the reduction of drunk driving. There's only a 2 to 3% change, and it goes up and down. And you can see that also in this figure here, which is the past decade. The yellow line's pretty stagnant, and those are the fatality rates. And so basically what all of this data tells us is that the current reduction methods that exist are pretty much ineffective. And so when I say reduction methods, there's zero tolerance policies, there's license revocation laws, there's ignition interlocks, sobriety checkpoints, there's educational campaigns, and then there's mass media campaigns. And as you can see by the lack of a decrease, something needs to change, and that's why we came up with BAC Lock.
So what is BAC Lock? We decided to come up with a proactive way to prevent drunk driving. Being that everything's going on with the coronavirus, we wanted to make a prototype using a 3D printer, but we didn't get access to it. So I'll be kind of doing a verbal walkthrough and explanation. So it's a 3-part system. It includes a mini locker unit with 2 subunits, a breathalyzer, and an ID scanning software. So basically the patron of a bar, let's say for example, would enter the bar after passing a bouncer, then approach this BAC lock system. They would proceed to scan their ID and a corresponding locker would open. Once the corresponding locker opens, all they do is put their car keys in there and close the locker, and they enjoy their night. On the way out, all they do again is scan their ID, and prior to the corresponding locker opening, they'll be prompted to use a breathalyzer. They'll use a disposable plastic breathalyzer mouthpiece, insert it into the system, blow it, and once they get the legal limit or lower, the corresponding locker would open and they would retrieve their car keys, go home, and have a great night. Going off that a little bit, what makes us different than everything out there now is, again, as I said, that we're proactive versus being reactive. All of the campaigns and different initiatives that Alicia brought up are happening after an accident happens. So a drunk driving incident happens, someone gets injured. Now the drunk driver gets punished with a suspension of license, there's an ignition interlock put in, maybe there's jail time, but nothing prevented that actual incident from happening to begin with. That's why we wanted to create BAC Lock. Based off the way that I explained it, obviously this is a voluntary system. There's no way to really enforce this unless it's mandated by law. But to combat that, we would come up with some type of incentives to make sure that people used it and that it would be pretty popular. Talking about that a little bit, how would this be implemented? We came up with 3 plans here. It would be a rental plan. So we would go to a bar, let's say, or a restaurant and install it there, and they would choose a starter plan, a standard plan, or a premium plan. The starter plan would last 3 months and they would be charged $350 per month. The standard plan would last 6 months and they would be charged $320 a month. And the premium plan would last 12 months and it would be $290 a month. So the people that are paying for this are the facility owners, the bar owners themselves, the restaurant owners themselves. But we would work with the facility owners to attract people to their bar to use our system. So going off of that, our goal as a company, it's not necessarily to eradicate drunk driving. as you could tell by the previous statistics, that's practically impossible. In the past few decades, 20, 30 years, this number is not decreasing significantly. What we want to focus is on reduction in the short term, and eventually in the long term, we'd focus on eradication. But our goal is to just encourage more staff supervision, encourage self-awareness of the BAC levels, and this would lead to a reduction in the number of drunk driving incidences. If staff are aware of what the BAC level is of an individual that's trying to retrieve their keys, they could prevent that person from leaving the bar. They could prevent the future drunk driving incident from happening. They could prevent any type of injury. And as well, self-awareness. A lot of the times when you're in the moment, BAC level, you might not really be aware how drunk you are. That could be based off sex, that could be based off diet, that could be based off medication. There's a lot of factors that play in part there and could prevent a person from understanding how drunk they are. And a system like this being put in place could really give like a reality check whether someone should drive home or not.
So a really huge part of the success of our company involves dram shop and social host laws. And 43 states, as you can see in the dark blue, New Jersey's included, have social hosts and dram shop laws. And basically, these laws hold owners responsible for any accidents that might be caused from someone who's intoxicated leaving their facility. And so the types of insurances involved here are general liability insurance, which is, any type of slip and fall accident that could occur, any type of, event that might happen. And then liquor liability insurance, which is specific to facilities that serve alcohol. And so general liability insurance usually costs around $1,700 a year, and they have around a $1 million policy limit. And due to the increased risk associated with alcohol, liquor liability insurances cost a bit more, anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a year. But their policy limit is around $1 to $2 million. And so we spoke with a few lawyers to try and get some insight on how any type of reduction method would decrease costs. And so in the same way, someone with health insurance can prove to their insurance company that they're actively working to be healthier, such as, having a gym membership, their premiums go down. So we applied the same concept here. And based off the experience from the lawyers that we spoke to, the general consensus was that for a new product like this, somewhere from 10 to 15% decreases in insurance premiums are feasible. And so the idea here is anytime you're reducing the likelihood of an alcohol-related damage, alcohol-related accident, you're decreasing the negligence on the part of the bar, and then you can decrease the insurance costs as determined by the insurer. So with any type of alcohol-related accident, or any accident, but specifically drunk driving accidents, there's a lot of losses. And so we want to talk about the tangible and intangible losses. So first, for the tangible losses, there's lost productivity, there's workplace losses, legal and court expenses, there's medical costs, emergency medical services, insurance administration costs, and property damage, just to name a few. But some of the other costs that you can't quite put a number on include the lost quality of life that can result from any type of injury, as well as the loss of life. And sometimes these costs can far exceed the $1 to $2 million policy limits that these facilities have in place. And so it's really important that they're actively working to reduce these from happening in the first place. To put some numbers on it, this data is from 2010 from the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, administration. And that's the last available economic cost data for motor vehicle accidents. And so these two numbers are for all motor vehicle accidents. But if we zoom in a bit on alcohol-related accidents, we're at $44 billion cost to the United States. And that's really, really an astounding number. But what's even more astounding is when you consider the intangible losses. So to give you an example, something like psychological counseling for the loss of a loved one in a drunk driving accident, the number skyrockets to $201.1 billion. And so we included this figure here just to give a little bit of a framework for why a bar would want to reduce their dram shop liability. And as you can see, there's a lot involved, but aside from lowering just the 10 to 15%,
Alicia?
I'm sorry?
I just have one question. So, well, first, thank you to both of you for coming up with the solutions for such a difficult problem that we're facing in the country. So, very commendable to both of you for doing this. I saw in your business plan that you did, you know, based from the semis to now, you did a survey of bar goers.
Yes.
Right, which was great that you did that and took that advice, and thank you for that. So, but secondly, did you also did you survey actually bar owners, as well as potential sponsors like, you know, alcohol companies and whatnot on their interests?
So we're actually going to get into the survey in a few slides. But when we first started with this idea, I was actually in Florida at the time, around winter break, and I spoke to a few, around 5 or 6 bar owners and brewery owners. And all of them thought that it was a really, really great idea. Their main concern was, you know, because it is new, and obviously we would need to work on getting data to show its success, you know, what can we provide them to want to install our lockers? And so we were thinking of 2 things. One was kind of like a trial period, which we're going to go into a little bit more with potential sponsorships. And then 5 out of the 6 of them suggested alcohol company sponsorships because they have experience with doing that with different types of promotional events. So they think that, you know, big name companies would be willing to promote such a reduction method.
Got it. And have you spoken to any of the alcohol companies?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet, but we would be willing to as soon as we can get the ground rolling, because we're going to talk about this again a little bit more, but basically we think it would be have a positive impact on them as well, because it shows that they're playing their role in reducing drunk driving, which, you know, morally would attract more customers.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. So to go back to this figure, we just wanted to reiterate how not only are we lowering the insurance premiums as an incentive, but also you're circumventing the huge short-term and long-term costs, one of which might include, you know, having to shut down your business because the costs just far exceed what your policy is covering. That being said, another thing to consider is the negative media and community backlash that you know, a company might get from permitting such a tragic event to happen. And then also on a positive note, you're playing your role in making the community a safer place.
So going off that a little bit, looking at the market that we would really target. So obviously our primary market are the people that are going to be paying for this. It'll be the facility owners, whether it's a bar, a restaurant, a club, a pub, or whatever other facility, they will be the ones paying us. So we will be marketing directly to them primarily. How would we do that? Mostly through face-to-face business sales. We'll approach a bar, whether it's through email, calling, and we'll stop by, give them the rundown of the product, offer a trial period, whether it's for a day, for a weekend, see how they like it. And that's how we would get the ground rolling with actually implementing these into the bars, letting the facility owners use them and see what the response is. Aside from that, there's a secondary market that we really need to make sure that we market to as well. It's not just the bar owners that we're concerned with. We want the customers to be actually using the BAC lock system. At the end of the day, if we're getting paid by the owners and no one's using it, it's not reducing drunk driving at all. So that's why we wanted to focus on the college-aged bars to begin with. So we want to market to people in the TCNJ area, the people that go to bars here, whether it's Cooper's Riverview or other bars in the area or restaurants. As you see in the statistic, it says that the 21 to 24-year-old age group has the highest percentage of drivers with an elevated BAC that lead to fatal crashes, over a quarter, 27%. So if we could start with marketing to the bars that have these college seniors, have these recent graduates that were just in college attending them, then we would be able to reduce the number of drunk driving incidents for the group that leads to them in the greatest percentage. So going off that, as was brought up earlier, we did a little survey. We wanted to initially go to the bars. We wanted to talk to the owners, talk to the customers, and see what they thought about this locker system in general. But then we were limited with coronavirus, everything shut down. So we ended up just making a simple Google form, sending it out to a lot of college age seniors. And this question read, would you be willing to use a BAC locker system at a bar to play your part in reducing drunk driving incidents? After we sent it out to a lot of our fellow seniors, a lot of people that recently graduated, we ended up getting back 135 responses, and 95.6, an overstanding amount of people stated that they would use it. That means that a lot of people, mine and Alicia's age, 21 to 24, within that age group, would be willing to reduce drunk driving. A lot of people have been affected by drunk driving incidents, and they want to play their part in fighting it. Aside from that, we left a little space at the bottom for comments. What do people think about this? So the number one biggest issue, let's say, a comment was the sanitation aspect of it. Obviously, coronavirus is in everybody's mind, and people are wondering, will this be sanitary? Will I be able to use this? So initially, what we wanted to do was cut down on costs and use a reusable, wash-safe mouthpiece that could be used interchangeably. But we decided to stick to a disposable plastic mouthpiece. Aside from the hygiene aspect of it, we wanted to look at a little bit more in the research, and we ended up finding that every single law enforcement breathalyzer test is administered using a plastic disposable mouthpiece. So
just one comment, I think that was a really good call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All of us are very sustainability minded, but I didn't see anyone. I thought it would have created too many complications to wash them. That's it.
Yeah.
And guys, I do have a question on the survey. Jeff, are you okay?
Just a comment.
Okay. So I'm wondering if it would have been a better question or an additional question, or two additional questions would have been, and I know you guys are limited in terms of, using technology because we're all stay at home here, but just thinking forward, would you favor a bar that uses BAC lock over a bar that doesn't? Because I think I remember from your original presentation that was a consideration that you guys were thinking about. And number two would be, I still think you guys have a decent issue to solve in terms of payment here for who's going to pay for this. Would the patron pay $1? Because if you've got 50 lockers and the patron comes in and pays $1 to use one, and you get 50 per night, I mean, you're solving your issue by the patron paying for it and paying for their own safety and the people around them. So maybe that's another question of thinking about this as a revenue model to help with those costs outside of the sponsorships, which may take a long time to do. But if people really care about this, maybe they would pay that extra $1 just to cover. It's like a cover charge going to see a band. So just things to think about, because I think that is your biggest issue. That is your biggest issue.
Thank you for that comment, because I think that's a really, really great idea. Another thing that, we could consider is maybe just raising the cover by $1 and, putting that $1 towards this. We did talk about in the semifinals, and I'll just bring it up briefly, how we saw firsthand with an accident that happened here, how it really turned people away from going to that bar that permitted that accident to happen after they were very, very successful. And then almost immediately everything just dropped off. So that was just our experience, but that's a really great point.
And adding on to that, as it says in number 3, a lot of people brought up incentives, and they would state that if there was a bar offering incentives to use this BAC lock system, they would almost always go to that bar rather than a bar that is not using the BAC lock system.
Yeah, so let me think. Right, so let's think through that with you guys, because if I think about it was a $290 a month on your plan, right? So if I don't know what a bar makes on a drink, but let's say it's $6 a drink and they make $3 per drink, and if an average person goes in and buys a three drinks and they make $3 per drink, you need 32 extra customers in order to cover your $290 a month for getting that locker in there. So just another way to think about how the bar may say, well, this is going to cost me, $290 a month. That's 32 customers I need more to bring into the bar in order to pay for the system. So just another thought of how you can, I think, tackle what is your biggest challenge.
Thank you. And one last comment I wanted to go over before we continue on is that a lot of people were very adamant about using this, but they were concerned about losing personal property. They didn't want to put car keys into a system, potentially separate themselves from them and not get them back. Just to address that, again, that's not really a concern of ours. We're trying to prevent people leaving with their car keys, getting into their car and driving themselves home, potentially getting into a drunk driving incident. If something happens where it's an emergency or a drunk individual needs to retrieve their car keys, there is a managerial override key. The manager or the staff in charge of this could override the breathalyzer, retrieve the keys, and make sure that the drunk individual gets home with their keys using a partner like, let's say, Uber or Lyft with a reduced price, which is what we want to get into in a few slides. But going off of the incentives, so we talked about a few possible incentives in our business plan as they're listed here. Obviously, this would be on an individual basis with each facility owner. It would vary. But some things we thought of are, let's say, a punch card system where they would eventually get a free t-shirt from a sponsor from the bar, a free cover for the next visit if they use the system, discounted drink, let's say $1 off their first beer for the night, a discounted food, which is like 10% off their tab, or a food voucher, which could be something like a free order of fries with an order of buffalo wings. So something to incentivize the secondary market to really go to the bar, to use this BAC lock system and get rewarded in regard for using it. Aside from that, there's a very large moral incentive for this. So a lot of people in my generation and Alicia's generation are very adamant about fighting against drunk driving, reducing it, and eventually eradicating it. So if, as we were saying earlier, if they were giving a choice to go to a bar with BAC lock installed there versus a bar not installed with BAC lock, a lot of people would rather go to the morally right bar that is trying to fight against drunk driving incidents from occurring.
So some of the sponsorships and partnerships that we briefly touched upon that we would be interested in working with are rideshare companies, so things like Uber and Lyft. So this would be mutually beneficial, obviously, because our product would be working, the people would be not getting into their cars, and then there would be an increase in the number of calls for Uber and Lyft, which would positively benefit their company as well. And as I briefly mentioned before, the sponsors can reduce costs. Big name alcohol companies such as Bud Light, Corona, White Claw, Bacardi, they're well known to sponsor, promotional events and different things, campaigns. So we believe it would also positively benefit them, as I was saying before, because they're actively showing and taking a role in reducing drunk driving. So there's a mutual benefit there. One really big one that we wanted to touch upon was local law enforcement. And to go into that just a bit more in depth, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's initiative to address impaired driving basically recommends that each state has a DUI task force. And these task forces are government funded, state funded, and a lot of those funds go into the existing reduction methods that we were talking about. So, going into a high school and having an assembly, an educational program, passing out pamphlets, hanging up flyers, commercials, and drunk driving simulations, different things that our research suggests tend to be ineffective. And so we believe it'd be worthwhile and quite feasible to see if these funds could be reallocated to a trial with BAC lock, which could reduce that one-time cost, that initial, first 3 months, to see if it's effective and worthwhile for the bar to continue with it. Or a continued sponsorship would also be possible. And so some barriers to entry, because it's a new kind of software and idea, we would need to obtain a legal patent. One of the really big ones that is a concern would be the fact that there are no current laws mandating the use of this system, and so it's voluntary. But based off of our surveying and speaking with different people again and our experience, we believe again that there's that moral incentive that even though there's not a mandate to use it, people don't set out their night with the intention of drunk driving. They certainly don't set out their night with the intention of killing someone. And so they, just as much as we want to reduce their risk, they also want to reduce their risk and would be willing to use the system. As with any technology, there can be obstacles. Technology can malfunction. So working with software producers and being able to map technology is really important to ensure the safety for clients. And as, of course, the startup costs, which we believe can be alleviated with the prize money associated with this competition. And so for our expansion plan, we talk about perfecting our business model here at TCNJ. Brian and I have been here for the past 4 years. This campus means a lot to us, and we wanted to start here to see if we can implement an effective way to prevent this from happening in the future. And after success here, we would expand our business model to other college-based bars in the tri-state area. As we saw with the statistic by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the biggest percentage of individuals involved in drunk driving accidents are college-age students. So that's the reason for our college-based bars. And after showing success there, we would expand the business model to other tri-state area bars, maybe targeting different age groups. And eventually, if proven successful, we hope to move on to a national scale and really get to long-term reduction and potential eradication of the problem.
So we talked about what BAC lock is, how BAC lock.
5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. But why BAC lock specifically? Why are Alicia and I the right people to run a company like this, and why would our product work the best? It all stems from a personal attachment to this. If you all remember, in December 2018, there was an accident on Pennington Road where a driver left a bar on TCNJ's campus town and ended up getting into an accident. The designated driver that was hit that night ended up passing away several days later. And if you look on the right part of the screen, you could see the community responding. There was hundreds of people that showed up for a vigil, supporting, texting me and calling me and stating things that if they want to participate in campaigns or reduction methods in the future to really fight this and see what we can do as a community to make sure that drunk driving incidents don't happen again. So that shows how morally people are really into this. Something that I found interesting was after dealing with the grieving process, I was doing a little bit of research and I found an article that came out almost immediately after the accident. And it was titled that police say that the 23-year-old of West Windsor had crossed the center line and was under the influence after spending hours drinking at a bar on the TCNJ campus. That really struck me as strange because if he spent hours drinking at a bar, you would assume that he's visibly intoxicated. You would assume that if there was a system put in place there, that there could have been a prevention method that stopped him from getting on the road, that stopped the accident from happening, stopped the loss of life. So looking a little bit more into that article itself, it was stated that he had a BAC level of 0.239. Just to put that into perspective, the legal limit is 0.08. That's when muscle coordination becomes poor, memory is impaired, it gets harder to drive, and then boxed in red is double. So it's when you have far less muscle control, you may vomit. When you're driving, you have substantial impairment. So imagine what triple that is. Clearly, he was visibly intoxicated. It was hard for him to walk. And if there was a BAC lock system in place, the bar would have been able to understand that he had an elevated BAC, that he was not good to drive, that he could have been sent home in an Uber, and this accident could have been prevented overall. So doing a little bit more research, we found the case itself. We found some excerpts from it, so I'll just read them aloud quickly. It says, the wrongful death and conscious pain and suffering of blank, as aforesaid, was a direct and proximate result of the over-serving and selling of alcoholic beverages to a visibly intoxicated patron. And another part in the case stated that at approximately 1:30 a.m., Landmark closed and blank left the bar visibly intoxicated and impaired. So this really just restates how a system that was put in place, that could be put in place in the future, where there's managerial awareness, staff supervision, people that are notified once there's an elevated BAC, this type of system could prevent and reduce drunk driving across the nation in every single scenario. There's some recent statistics that we looked up that apparently there's a drunk driving incident once every 50 minutes in America. So that is far too often. There could be very simple ways to reduce that, and BAC lock could be an easy way to do that.
And just to conclude, there's a lot of incentives for our clients or the bar owners to implement such a system. So aside from the reduced insurance costs and the promotional sponsorships, there's also increased community relations that we believe would in turn lead to more profit, because when you're actively playing your role and playing a positive role in the community, your customers see that and they would prefer to choose a bar that's actively playing a role. And so a lot of our research that went into this, something that commonly came up was, what has TCNJ done? What will TCNJ do in the future to prevent this from happening? And so Brian and I are graduating next month, and this was really our opportunity to maybe implement something that TCNJ and other college bars could seriously consider to prevent such a tragic accident from ever happening again in the future. We just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to be here, and all of the judges and everyone involved. It's really been such an honor.
Thank you all.
Nice job, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, all three teams. In a different world, this is the time where I would invite you to join us for some appetizers. I still would like to invite you to rejoin us in approximately 20 minutes, half an hour. It's not quite clear depending on the judges' deliberations. I would like to ask judges to stop their cameras and mute their mics. We move to a different Zoom meeting, and the teams, you can remain on the screen with your mics muted. We will be back soon, and hopefully we'll all enjoy the final decisions. Thank you.
So I think we're all here.
I don't see Bojana yet.
No, she's on, I think. I just looked at the participants.
Yeah, there's one more student still not up and unmuted.
Okay.
That's Sri.
Oh, okay. So we're waiting for one, correct? There you are. Great. So I think we're all here. The teams anyway, the finalists?
Yes, everyone's present.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if we were in person, we typically would like to thank Professor Mayo, and I know that many of you have already, for supporting this business competition, as well as Eric Sabo for his continued support. Very generous in terms of financial support, as well as being one of our judges. We also want to acknowledge the amount of time and effort it took for the business school staff to put this together, given the fact that we are now all remote and doing this via Zoom. So it's certainly been a challenging time for all of us. And I know that times like this can be very unsettling. I think that each of our finalists have shown their passion and dedication to their ideas, as well as their resilience to put 100% of their efforts into finalizing their plans and presenting to us remotely. Did a great job, took a lot of our suggestions. We definitely saw the difference. So I give you a lot of credit for that. Very difficult decision, but we have made one. And so I'm going to start with our third place winner, which will receive a $10,000 award. And that is BAC Lock. So thank you very much. Great work. Our second place winner, and they will receive a $20,000 award, is Empower Me. Congratulations. And yeah, clap. And our finalist, our number one winner, obviously, receiving the $30,000 award is Vortex. And there you go. Thank you to all of you. Really great job. We're here to congratulate you and celebrate with you the best we can. Obviously, being socially distant.
Thank you again, all of you. I want to thank again the judges, Professor Mayo, for his very generous support of the project, and congratulate all three teams. The number 2 and number 3 came close, and I'd like to encourage you to follow some of the feedback, and I hope you will continue with your creativity. It was really an excellent experience for us, looking at the progress and what judges mentioned several times during our brief deliberation, how much change they saw in different iterations. So good luck and congratulations.
Clapping for all of you. Good job, guys.
And
Ladies.
the logistics, if you are wondering, we will follow up via email with the next step on the prizes. Congratulations and thank you.
And also just to note, this has been recorded. I will be posting this online and sharing the link and the info on social media. And I can send this to all the panelists today as well, the recording.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.